Hello, welcome to Big Bang Radio Spotlights. This is a show where we talk to independent artists from all around the world all about their music and their process for making it. I'm your host, Isaac Anderson, and today I get to sit down with Conner from the band Half Moon Run. Without any further ado, here's the interview. Well, Conner, thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. I want to start at the beginning of your musical journey, just like we do with all the other artists that we talk to on the show. So the first question I want to ask you is, what is your earliest musical memory?
My mom used to play a lot of tapes in the car, and so I remember, this is a bit of a strange memory, but I remember sitting in the back of a car, and she was playing like a children's cassette, and I think I can remember being in a car seat, so I don't know how old that makes me, maybe 3 or 2 or something. And I heard the sound of a woman's voice on this thing, and it was like a high vibrato, a high soprano vibrato, and it sent a chill down my spine. And I remember the words that went through my head. This is one of my very earliest memories, full stop. But the word that went through my head was, "That's married." You know, I thought that somehow that high woman's vibrato and the word married linked up in my mind. So it's kind of I suppose, a proto-sexual memory. My early budding kind of sensuality, I think, is related to my first musical memory. So that's a good way to get things kicked off.
Well, how exactly did you get started playing music? Was anybody in your family musical? Was anybody in your circle musical? I don't know. How exactly did that get started for you?
Pretty serious piano lessons until I was 14 or so. And then I took on the guitar and all that kind of thing on my own. But no, that was a big part of my life growing up, was taking piano lessons.
It's funny how I find that a lot of musicians that take piano lessons when they're young like that, they don't really appreciate or like it at that age, but they really appreciate it when they're older. Were you one of those people that really didn't like the lessons at the time?
I mean, I didn't like practicing very much when I was compelled to practice. It wasn't like I was practicing hours and hours a day. But I mean, you know, kids have a short attention span. I have much more patience to practice now. But I took to it pretty quickly, and so it was fun. I started to like things like 50s rock and roll when I was like 7 or 8. And so at about that same age, I was able to learn, you know, boogie-woogie motifs on the piano. And that was super fun, super gratifying. And I think that kind of kept me going, that I was able to play things creatively that I liked at a fairly early age too.
Well, it sounds like you have a very strong musical foundation and just a general love for music. And I'm just curious, because you're such a great songwriter, how exactly did you get started in the writing side of things? And do you remember the first song that you wrote?
Yeah, well, I guess I was probably started dabbling 14, 15, 16, like most people do at about that age. And it's because I was trying to start little bands in high school, and we were playing a lot of covers. And so I was trying to write stuff back then. Really wasn't very good at all. And the band that I was playing in high school, we're basically a rock and roll cover band, and we would play in all the local pubs. And so I tried to work in an original song here and there at those long, like 4-hour pub gigs. But it wasn't really until I met Half Moon Run when I was 19 that I started to really seriously, that's all we did. No more covers, just original music.
Was there a moment that you can recall that you knew for a fact that music was the path you wanted to take?
Well, when I was 16, 17, I decided that I would move in that direction. And if it started to gain any kind of traction, that I would, you know, pounce on it and stay with it. But when I graduated from high school, I did enroll in university at McGill in Montreal. I was studying psychology. So I kind of had 2 pathways going on. And at about that same time when I started going to university, I did get a bit of traction when I met the band. And when I met the band, before we had any shows or any success of any kind, I definitely clearly went through my mind that as long as this band keeps heading in the direction that it's going, I will drop everything if that's what it takes.
Close little whisper, a kiss from a distance. Listen, an instant is come and gone. How come my body salts its running blood? Oh, you're gone. So I can figure out what's
Film's been around since 2009, I believe, and in 2012 you guys put out a record called Dark Eyes. What are some memories that you really took away from the recording of that album, and what were some experiences that you really carried over to today?
We were basically learning how to record when we made that first one, and so it was pretty arduous. It took us like 7 months. We had to redo a lot of it. Some of the songs we did over 3 times, and just fighting and fighting and fighting to get a sound that we wanted. I remember it was tough, and we still hadn't really played any shows yet, and so we were still working side jobs in the morning or before the recording sessions, and so I remember just working really hard and feeling at times like I was being worn too thin, because I just was like, I don't know if this is going to go anywhere, but we just kept fighting. I'm proud of it looking back, but it wasn't easy.
Especially in those early days, you had a lot of big things happen, and specifically I'm talking about the Assassin's Creed sync licensing deal. How was that experience for you guys?
Things like that would come through our inbox once in a while, just from our management, like normal. And so it would be like, a little TV show placements or something for an advertisement. And Assassin's Creed came in through like anything else. I mean, I didn't really realize, I suppose, just how many people play that game, how many people know about that game, because that is definitely the one placement that people have mentioned the most often. TV show, commercial, whatever, Assassin's Creed is the one that comes up most often. So it just came through like anything else.
I want to hop onto the record that you guys put out last year. It's called Inwards and Onwards. First off, love the cover. It has a really awesome analog colors on it. I feel like you guys take a lot of influence from some of those analog pieces of gear. I mean, you have a tape machine hanging out right behind you. So I know that plays into your musical sensibilities, but I'm really just curious, how exactly was the recording of that like for you guys?
This is the first record that we self-produced. Every other record we've done at a studio with a producer, and this is the first time that we've done it in our jam space by ourselves. Dylan, who's the drummer in the band, mixed it, and so we didn't even use an outside mixer. And we were a bit nervous going into that because, usually we hire people to do that, I suppose. And so this record means that, it's why it's called Inwards and Onwards, because it was about looking inwards and going onwards. And it means that we can do it, and it means that we can do it again. And it means that the next thing that we're going to do is a longer album in this same format. And so we had to redefine ourselves in some sense during the pandemic, like everybody had to. And it was scary, and it might have failed, and it feels like it worked. And so it was like proving something to ourselves, I suppose.
Well, that record is out right now, along with all your other streaming music. And if people want to keep up with you guys, how can they find you online?
Oh, halfmoonrun.com or any streaming platform. But yeah, halfmoonrun.com.
Well, Conner, thank you so much for talking to me today. I really do appreciate it. But before you go, I got one more question for you. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a Big Bang Radio Spotlight before, but I'm a musician, but I also love film. And I believe those two mediums are really closely connected, and musicians just have a soft spot for film. So before you go, what is your favorite movie?
I love movies from the early 70s. I love that new American cinema, like everyone loves those movies from the 70s, if it's like, the Scorsese movies or The Last Detail, some of that early Jack Nicholson stuff. But I also love John Huston and his films, especially. I love The Maltese Falcon. I love Treasure of Sierra Madre. I love Orson Welles' films. I love Robert Altman. I really definitely couldn't give you one. I could give you 30, but I couldn't give you one.
Thanks to Conner for sitting down with us and talking all about Half Moon Run's music. If you want to see more interviews just like this, you can find us online at Studio 67 NCC. Thank you all for watching. I'm Isaac Anderson, and until next time, stay lovely.